Greetings. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, brought to you by Heart and Soul Broadcasting Services. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. Today, I'm in conversation with Gugulethu Siso, the co-founder and CEO at Thumeza Fintech. If you enjoy this conversation, remember to subscribe, to like, and share. Let's get down to some work. Gugulethu Siso, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor.
Thank you so much for having me, and please feel free to call me Gugu.
Gugu. I love your name, by the way. Gugu is such a beautiful name.
Yeah.
You know, I always look forward to having conversations with young people like you, who, in my assessment, are doing real work, creating companies, providing services, creating jobs. So for me, having you here is a celebration of your generation and the people that are working hard in a very tough environment to do the things that you do. So well done.
Thank you for that vote of confidence as well.
So I want us to do a pit stop, sort of helicopter stop on 2 or 3 projects that you are involved in. You've been involved in, rather. First of all, Thumeza Fintech. Talk to us just briefly. What is Thumeza Fintech and what does Thumeza Fintech do? As briefly as possible. We'll come back to this.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
So Thumeza is a fintech that uses an online loan management platform in order to provide credit to small-scale transporters. I would say that's about it in essence. We provide credit to small-scale transporters only.
Fantastic. Then the next project is you were founder and CEO of Thumeza Logistics, which you pivoted to the fintech.
Yeah.
What was the essence of Thumeza Logistics, as briefly as possible?
Awesome. So in essence, we're a logistics aggregator. So we would contract out to, let's say, entities such as Pick and Pay, and then aggregate the small-scale transporters, allowing them access to contracts that usually they would not have access to.
Right. And then the next project that I want us to helicopter over is you 2014, 2015, you were with the Global Business Labs, which is a Swedish business accelerator. Just again, a couple of seconds on that. What was it all about?
So that was an incubation as well as an acceleration hub for startups. So GBL used to provide them with access to accounting services from institutions such as Deloitte, marketing services, as well as legal services. So in essence, giving startups that kind of formal access to services that they usually would not be able to afford.
And then the last project, you were co-founder and managing director of 99 Investments. 2015 and 2017, what was that all about?
So that one was interesting. That one, we're providing retail solutions trolley management solutions to retailers. So in essence, we were managing trolleys through providing them with trolley guards, trolley servicing, literally changing any broken wires and all that other stuff, as well as replacing any trolleys to large retailers such as Woolworths, Pick and Pay, etc. throughout Namibia.
Now that we've done that pit stop helicopter view of your career, I think almost over the past 10 years, my question to you is, I get a sense that your career is just taking off, that the 10 years have been preparing you for something absolutely wonderful that's ahead of you. Is that the sense that you get?
Well, yes, but I'm an entrepreneur, so we tend to be delusional. Hey, I think our best line is delusion. You always think that this is the opportunity. I'm just about to make it. But I think, as you've rightly pointed out, that this is the time that I think we're just about to take off. As you've rightly pointed out, I've been in the space for 10 years, so there are various lessons that I've gone through from deep failure, from trying to figure out how did I get it so wrong, or, really, really dizzying successes where like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in this room with this person. They really believe in me, that they think that I can actually make this work. But I think from where we are right now, from a company point of view, I believe we finally found product market fit. So by this, it means that we found a product that we believe the market really wants, right? As much as it's a very niche product, as you've rightly pointed out, that is in logistics, but also in fintech, right? We're servicing a very niche sector, right? But I think we'll finally figure out how exactly we can provide credit to a very high-risk demographic without losing money, while still making sure that you're able to give returns to credit providers as well as investors. So yeah, very, very optimistic whilst landing to a delusion, as I've said.
I think that we'll get into the product and break it down as much as possible.
Sure.
But I want us to go to that space of being on the edge of delusional and optimistic.
Yeah.
And what I want my pushback is that without that, you'd not be able to get up out of your bed and go on to work, because it's that delusion, it's being optimistic that gets you up and say, let me go out and do it. Am I right, or am I overstepping there?
No, I think you're spot on. Entrepreneurship is a hard, extremely hard world, right? There needs to be a certain level of believing that there's something out there that you, rather, as I'm saying, that you only believe that you can achieve, right? That there's this grand vision in your head that you think, if I can only just get to this particular steps, I'll get to it, right? Without that, to be honest, depression is something that's always, lingering on the sides, because as I've said, the failures are really, really bad, right? Can you imagine having, staff members? I think at 99 Investments, we had about 53 staff members, right? Can you imagine not having enough money month end to pay those people? How exactly will you get up in the morning and go to the office knowing that on the 30th, you're not going to have enough money, right? Being able to, lower yourself, to ask your friends for a loan, to say, oh, you guys, as much as it may seem like I'm doing well right now, right? I just need like a quick loan.
Different.
I need a quick loan of about 6K. I'll give it back to you, in 15 days. And then in that 15 days, you are hustling and pushing to make sure that you pay it back. Because the second that you cannot honor those agreements with your friends, your support system, right, literally disappears, because it will be, Gugu doesn't pay back. Why should I help her out, right? So that's the reality of it, where I know some people have said that, but Gugu, you always say, you shouldn't get into entrepreneurship. But then I'm like, it's pain and suffering, right? If you don't have to, and you truly have any other alternative opportunity, I'd rather you go for it, because the level of delusion that you need is it's quite huge in order for you to be able to go through the day-to-day crap that you have to go through as an entrepreneur to keep that dream alive and functioning in a practical sense, rather.
But there's got to be, at least the way I view it, and listening to what you're saying, delusional, depression is around the corner, the pressure of paying salaries. There must be a why.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? Because without that why, it's going to be difficult to face all these things. Am I right?
I'll be honest, Trevor. I've read some books, right? Just trying to figure out, is there some other higher purpose that's out there that I'm trying to achieve, or am I just stubborn and I believe that I'm the only one who can do something? These days, I'm slowly coming to the realization that, there are books or, these great,
management books
that tell you that,
motivation.
This is your higher purpose. You want to do this. But I've slowly come to accept the fact that I'm stubborn. I truly believe that I have a vision for a particular solution that I think I'm the only one that can fix it. And also to the stubbornness, I also believe that I can create a great deal of value, not just for the company, but for my investors and shareholders, as well as stakeholders like prospective employees, right? That I believe that I can push, that if I was in any other particular situation and environment, I would not be able to do. So it's slowly coming to accept, as I was saying, that little bit of delusion as well as arrogance to say that truly, this is why I'm doing it. There's no ulterior large motive of I want to change the world. I want to save this person. No, I want to create a crap load of value for my shareholders and stakeholders. And I think that I'm the only one who can do it in this particular situation. So I've said that, that goes against what a lot of management books tell you to do. This is greater value, but talk to yourself, right? And be like, why exactly are we doing this? You get the answer. You might not like it. You'll fight it, but you accept it eventually, and that gets you to the next level.
But I hear you saying you are stubborn
Yeah.
in believing that you're the only one who can provide the solution. Shall we go there?
Yeah.
What is that solution?
Cool. So very, as you can tell, like I get very animated about this particular conversation. So starting off, right, I just come back home to Zim in 2018. I remember I just left Namibia, right, after the debacle of 99 investments. So I didn't have children, or rather I still don't have children. Why am I saying that? I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a car note, right? In essence, I was a young person and there was nothing tying me down to Namibia. So I was feeling patriotic and I decided to come back home to Zim. And I remember, you're young, you come back home, you become the family runner, Oh, something needs to look good. Go to the village. Tell Gugu to take you to the buses, or something needs to happen. Gugu's around, she's at home, just give her the car keys, she'll make a plan, right? And that was available. I remember we'd kind of messed up my grandmother's pills. She's got high blood pressure. So they'd finished, I think, a couple of days earlier than we'd anticipated that they would, right? So I needed to make a plan to make sure that they get to the village earlier than the solution that we'd come up with. So I remember in my arrogance, or is it arrogance or naivety, going to the DHL offices saying, hey, can you guys take this to Malalume? Which is, I'm not quite
and they
sure.
said, what? Where is that?
As you can imagine. So for those that don't know, Malalume is, I think, about 80 km away from Plumtree. Deep Kalanga territory. That's where my mom's side of the family is from. So they're like, no. I was like, what do you mean no? It's I'm giving you money. I've got a package that needs to go. What do you mean this won't go, right? So I remember going around to all these courier companies and being told the same answer. And then someone saying, but why don't you just go to the buses? And I was like, hey man, what do you mean the buses? Surely this can't be the only answer. But then, after I'd gone to the buses and, the pills went, right? I started, having conversations with people to say, let's say you've got a depot or a store at the village. How exactly are you getting your goods there if you don't have a truck or you're not moving there on a day-to-day basis? How are you getting your stuff, right? So I was like, there must be another way that should be able to get your goods there, which is how I came up with the first Thumeza logistics, right? So the whole plan was to say that Trevor's got a truck, right? Robert has got a 2-ton truck. Stacey has got three trucks, right? Why don't I all just aggregate them into a fleet, put them underneath Thumeza, and then, contract to, let's say, I'm not quite sure, Slovela marketing or whoever in the village, and then we'll push the goods to them. That's how we started. Quickly figured out that...
and Thumeza is translation is to send.
Literally to send.
To send.
Literally. I remember trying to... it's not CPICC. What is it in Zim? When you're trying to register the name, and then you give them your list of names, and they're like, these are taken. I remember I wanted Patisa, because I was like, oh, that sounds nice. But there's a Patisa somewhere in my Shonaland. I was like, hi, man. Hey, so give me that name. So I ended up just looking for something. Literally.
But it's a beautiful name.
Yeah, it's nice.
It conveys the message. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to that, so we start off with the aggregation, right? You start moving goods, then we went up the value chain and started moving goods for guys such as Pick and Pay, right? Started realizing that I was moving all those goods through aggregation, but these smaller guys needed money up front in order to pay for fuel, right? But the larger guys were paying you 30 to 60 days after delivery. Who's going to pay for those goods to get there before you get paid, right? And remember, you get greedy, a startup, you're like, we're getting great, right? We're getting all those loads, man. Have you seen, who I am? These guys know me by name. They are calling me. But you look at your financials, you're in the red. Literally, it's as if I was running the business on, on credit 4. Going to the banks and not being able to get lines of credit because the business model didn't make sense for them. To say, how exactly a logistics company, but you don't personally own these trucks? What form of collateral are we getting? And I've got invoices, I've got contracts, and they're like, no, this is a bit too high risk for us. So just after COVID, which was a very interesting time for us, I had to make the difficult decision to shut down Thumeza Logistics. I literally was so far in the red that after dissolving everything, I didn't have anything left, literally. I paid all my debts off, paid all the small-scale transporters off, and then said, thank you so much for your business. Large guys, let me figure out something else. And then oddly enough, the small-scale transporters would now start calling me to say, hey, can you just borrow me 1,000 quickly? You know me, right? You know I'm good for it. Let me just do this load and then I'll pay you back. So what we'd been inadvertently doing had been providing a line of credit to the small-scale transporters to allow them to move the goods, but we had not been charging them for it. So it's like, wait, this is a solution that I can offer to these guys. I understand the business model intimately. I understand how necessary credit is for this growth, right? It's the difference between you being only able to service Pick and Pay to being able to encompass GMB as well as cross the borders. So that's how we ended up with Thumeza Fintech.
What was the lesson, Gugu, for you in terms of the failure in somewhat of Thumeza Logistics? Because I sense that there's a sense that you were let down by the banks who didn't understand your business model, because there's a Deliveroo in the UK and in India. There's BNB, they don't own any assets.
Uber Freight.
There's Uber,
literally.
they don't own any assets. So banks didn't understand what you're trying to do. What lessons did you learn from this season of your life?
You know what, oddly enough, I don't blame the banks. Now that I'm in credit myself and you really start looking at credit risk models, I look at it from the inside now and I'm like, we were way too risky, right? We weren't operating as someone that thought that they were actually holding the risk for the small-scale transporters. So our risk exposure was way too high. That's the first lesson to say. Credit-wise, it was a non-starter. Second, it was to... as startups, you tend to get very excited to say that I'm getting to partnership with these large corporates. I've made it, I'm with the big boys. But realistically, you need to let the data as well as your financials lead your decisions, right? I know there's a lot of hate that accountants are getting these days. Is it CPA Twitter where they're like, oh, CPAs are talking again. But, you can't now start growing whilst knowing that on your financials, so you've made this amount of money. But cash flow-wise, there's nothing in the bank, right? You've overextended yourself. So I think the biggest lesson that I took was truly be pragmatic with what you can really do, right? There's a certain amount of leeway that you can give your partners, right, in a business perspective, to say that I really do want your business, but unfortunately, I can't afford it beyond a certain perspective. So it's also being willing to stand up for yourself to say, but guy, can we talk? It's business people between you and I, let's talk. Instead of being intimidated by saying, oh, but they're this big person, Trevor is large, right?
Yeah.
If I open my mouth, it'd be like, go away, there are hundreds other Googles out there.
I'm going to lose them.
But realistically, are there other Googles out there? If they were willing, they have gone to them, right?
Absolutely.
So it's having the guts to say that I am also, a service provider.
Value.
Yes, I
Yes.
actually have value.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, it's okay. There'll be someone else. But we're so scared to say, I'm going to jeopardize this relationship, which is how we end up getting into these oodles of debt just to keep up with this facade that you've made it, but we haven't.
I'm going to stop you there. Don't go away. When we come back, we're going to go to your pivot,
Sure.
Which is Thumeza Fintech. So you fail with logistics, you then tend to fintech.
Sure.
We'll drill down into that. So at home, don't go away. See you on the other side.
I think I got raised out of that just by shooting my shot there. And that accelerator just deciding to take a chance on me to say that maybe you've got something here.
Welcome back to our conversation with Gul Ciso, the co-founder and CEO at Thumeza Fintech. So Thumeza Logistics humbles you.
Yeah.
What were the lessons from that? And perhaps, how did that feel to you? Failure is not an easy thing.
It's really not. It was an interesting time in my life. I mean, it was just after COVID, right? So you're also being surrounded by people whose businesses had to shut down, right? So it kind of felt like I couldn't quite talk to some of my support system that were also going through similar challenges, because it's like, as much as they say problem shared is a problem solved, right? When you look at someone else and you're like, your business just shut down, you can't afford your house anymore, it feels like your problem, compared to this other person's problem is not exactly, comparable. From a professional point of view, I was now second guessing myself to say, is this really for me, right? Is entrepreneurship really for me as I thought, right? So as I was saying, those delusion levels, it really dropped, right? The fear, the insecurity had really crept in, As I remember my mother, when I first started off entrepreneurship, she was like, are you sure? Why don't you just get a job? I remember I'd also just been offered, a position to run one CSR department for one fund. She's like, but that would have been safe, right? So when you're now really low, those thoughts start coming back to say, maybe I should just get a job, right?
Did those thoughts come across your mind?
They
maybe
did.
I should just get a job?
They did.
And how did you push them back?
I think the pushing back, so oddly enough, right, while I was still having those thoughts, and I remember there was a friend of mine from Kenya who runs a logistics startup, right? They're doing quite well. They'd raised a lot of money, and they were expanding across East Africa. It's like, I need someone, head of global business to take over and understand the situation. Maybe this would take your mind off it. Just take a break for a year, and then maybe you should decide to jump back in. But oddly enough, there was an accelerator that had just come up. And I'd had this idea to say, maybe that credit, I could turn it. So I just sent an application to say, let me shoot my shot. Then oddly enough, that thing became a thing. I remember we applied with a business model canvas. It wasn't even a business plan. It was a canvas to say, that's the idea. I have no clients. I have no traction. I have no money. This is an idea. And they're like, based on your background and the fact that you've actually run this thing, why not? Maybe take a chance. So I think I got raised out of that just by shooting my shot there. And that accelerator just deciding to take a chance on me to say that maybe you've got something here. Why don't you try it again? Otherwise, I believe that if that hadn't happened, I'd be maybe in Kenya right now, working for someone else.
So you go into Thumeza Fintech.
Yeah.
And what has been the experience like? That's what you're doing at the moment.
Yes. We've been running this for, I believe, the past two and a half years. Financially, so 3 years even though. Yeah, okay. I digress. It's been an interesting experience. Bear in mind, we did not quite have this background in credit, right? It was an assumption. Everything was just an hypothesis, right? So we started off in the beginning, with small-scale transporters. You're very empathetic. You're like, I want to help you guys. You guys are the backbone. They don't understand you, right? And then you quickly realize that just willy-nilly giving transporters money without making sure that your credit model is intact is a recipe for disaster, right? So that's when I got my first taste of the legal system, right? Testing how watertight are your contracts. To say that if I borrow Trevor money, how can I get my money back? If Trevor says, no, come get it. Like that, I remember the first time someone was like, no. I was like, what do you mean no? You owe me money, give it back. What do you mean no, right? And then you go back and you're like, this is contracts, right? So, I would say, guys, your lawyer needs to be your best friend in the beginning. Like, as much as we say that these are very, overrated, you can get a template offline. This is not something that you want to start fighting about when it's now in court or in front of arbitration and they're now reading those clauses. Those clauses are very important. So that was the first part to say your contracts need to be watertight, right? And don't just willy-nilly borrow people. Then we moved up, we tightened the model a little bit to say that we only now borrow you through certain distribution partners, right? So where we're at right now is that it's a very closed loop system. So the small-scale transporter is not my first client. You as Pick and Pay are my client, right? So I'll say that Pick and Pay understand that you've got, let's say, 2,000 transporters. You're paying them 30 to 60 days. Your logistics manager is complaining that these guys are not coming to load because they're saying that they don't have money, right? Finance is also another branch who's saying that, we're also trying to manage our own cash flow reserves, right? So we don't want to pay them up front. So we get into an agreement to Pick and Pay to say that we'll offer you this fund. Let's say we've got 100K, right? We'll only deal with pre-vetted transporters to say that of the 100 transporters, they'll be able to get their invoices settled.
Who is pre-vetting them?
Pick and
Pay.
It's within the system. So this is someone who's active in good standing.
Okay.
Everything is in order, right? And we do this on a month-by-month basis. So once this has been done, right, the transporter gets onto the Thumeza website. or Thumeza platform, and then applies for early invoice settlement against the invoice that they only have with Pick and Pay. You will not get access to our platform if you're not underneath the distribution partner. You won't even log in because we need a certain vendor number for you to even get access, right? So once that's done, let's say they've got an invoice of 10,000, we'll take our little percentage, commission, and then Pick and Pay would pay us that 10,000 that the person had borrowed minus the commission at the end of the 30 days. So this lessens our risk to say that we're no longer dealing with someone who can now say, come fight me for money, right?
Come and get your money.
As well as those little issues of, pre-invoice financing where we're facing where, you've given someone the money, they had the best intentions, but, on the end one, something exploded. And now you're like, we gave you the money based on this load, but this load wasn't completed. So the risk element has really been negated.
Reduced,
it will never be zero, I'm well aware, but it's as close to zero as we can. And we're also growing within this particular
and this is Pick and Pay South Africa, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Which other or big operators are you working with at the
So
moment?
right now we're also dealing with guys such as SkyNet. So we've been a bit curtailed, to be honest, by how much money we have. So as you can imagine,
which is a good problem, isn't it?
It sounds like a good problem, right? But in terms of distribution, logistics is a very capital-intensive, model, right? So what may seem like, $10,000 US, like it's money, it's one invoice, and then this person has 10 invoices in a month. So capacity is really what's killing us. We're always looking for money to pour back into the model. So everything that we're literally generating right now goes back into our model. And we've got a turnaround time within 12 months of 9 times that we're able to turn around the fund. So please, any investors, if you've got any money out there, please hit me up after this.
Absolutely. I'm sure they will. We've got a big following within the financial sector. It's not that I was going for the banks, as it were. We had this conversation during the break. I think there's a certain lack of understanding of these fintech business models, for instance, where I would expect that the bank sees these models all over the world and says, how do you finance an operation of this nature? So it's not that I was knocking banks, as it were, but we'll leave that aside.
Sure.
So your business, to me, correct me, let's try and clarify this. These are the elements that I see. There's the technology, which is the platform.
Yes.
There's the logistic business. There's the financial business. Are those the building blocks? Have I missed anything out?
No, those are the core business blocks. At this particular point, the logistics part, we're just doing the financing. We're not coordinating it at this particular point. This might be Thumeza 2.0, but we're now adding on other value-added services. But those are the main building blocks. It's literally tech so that we can actually analyze and collect that data on a day-to-day basis.
Did you build the tech yourself?
Yes.
Aha.
It was an interesting experience. It's always an interesting experience, as you can imagine. So the first version that we had was the amount, when you start off with something, right? You've got a hypothesis of 1 + 1 = 2. And then you start inputting real life data. And you're like, the platform can't handle it. Like at some point we'd given up where, Tebogo, my co-founder, we literally now had a finance team just literally dealing with this information because the platform just couldn't handle it. It was way more information. There are more moving parts, right? Certain things such as, you're trying to integrate to the back end of your distribution partner, things break, right? Or you integrate and then the output, you're like, these numbers don't make sense. Now you're scared to now, give out credit based on these numbers because you're like, they don't make sense. So you're like, okay, let me pull back and go back to human while I revisit it again. So those lessons, I think from a purely usage, I'm not even going to start talking about the tech perspective, right? From pure usage, it's really taking it step by step and really being honest with your distribution partner to say that, will this work for you, right? Let me start off from the beginning. Can you use this, right? What other running or moving parts do you think may need to be inputted into the particular segment so that I can grow with you. Because if you don't have those conversations, you're going to run into what happened with us, where it's you build for one scenario and then the real life application is a completely other different thing.
But I think that's the nature of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly the nature of technology. You iterate as you go on. Because when
Literally.
you start, you have no idea how this thing is going to look like towards the end.
Yes. Your intentions as well as the end product are two completely different things, right? As I was saying that, the other versions that we've got coming up, right? When I'd left the logistics part, I was like, never again, I've got trauma. I don't want to deal with trucks broken down. But then you start seeing the value to say that how much more value can I extract from this value chain? Why am I only financing? Why can I now do the coordination? Then take a little bit more commission, right? Add on insurance in front.
Opportunities present themselves as you run. Tell me, supposing there's an investor looking at you right now and saying, I think I like what she's saying.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Why should they be interested in Thumeza Fintech?
Thumeza is literally solving a problem that has been here for eons. Logistics is, I think, it's one of those industries that have been here through, the beginning of time. From where people have been, goods have had to move, right? From where we started off with those tiny little wheels, they were moving something, right? And it's one of those industries that disrupting them, to be honest, takes guts and takes a lot of time, because this has been happening for so long, right? So a case in point that the logistics industry itself in Africa, right, is estimated to be about $400 billion. And these are, I think, numbers from 2018. So I'm not even sure what's even happening this year, especially with the push for the AfCFTA, right? And financing, right, over 80% of those people in logistics, right, are small-scale transporters. 70% of that demographic cannot get access to credit, purely because of that issue that we're also facing, where someone looks at you and says, you're high risk. Even if you own trucks, it's, am I sure that you're going to get paid, or this truck will explode, in transit, or something happens. So we found a way to literally provide a service that is needed to make sure that the goods keep moving. There are goods that will continuously move regardless of whatever disruption, regardless of COVID or whatever new plague comes to haunt us, right? Goods will still move. There won't be a shutdown, right?
No.
It's as opposed to, running a restaurant or something, where it's like, oh, this is no longer needed. Goods will continuously move. So I'd say that investing in us is investing in something that you make sure that would definitely have returns, and returns that definitely make sense. And also additionally, we've already started thinking of exit strategies. So you're not investing in something where you start thinking, how will I get my money back, Google? And I start telling you, maybe God will provide. No, I have a plan, right? I already know exactly who I'd want to exit to and what that looks like.
And you have, am I right, correct me, that you've actually dispersed $2 million to small-scale transporters?
Yes, this was in 2023 alone.
This was in 2023.
Yeah.
Is that number growing?
It is growing. It's anxiety-inducing, but it is growing, as I'm saying.
Yeah.
That we're in a very unique position where we're fighting the growth, where you're having to kind of cap it a bit, because you're like, I'm struggling to kind of keep up. As you rightly pointed out, that it's a great problem to have.
It's stretching you?
It's stretching us.
Right.
The capacity, as I'm saying, that you don't want to disappoint your clientele to say that I got into this agreement with you, and now suddenly I'm now telling you stories about I don't have enough money. As you can imagine, how many large FMCG companies are there in SA alone, right?
So at the moment, sorry to break your stride there, at the moment you are mainly in South Africa. Any business in Zimbabwe?
Not now.
Not now.
So in our early stages, we started off in Zim, testing the market, purely because the logistics aggregation business had been here. And we also thought that if anything will break, it will break in Zim, right? So I'd rather figure out what will go wrong here in a smaller market before exporting it to a larger market where the consequences are much higher. And then beforehand, we'd also expanded to Kenya. I think we're also in Uganda and Botswana. But experiences of growing too quickly for what you can do, right, literally quickly brought us back to our home market, which is SA. So once again, I'd say if you don't have to grow, please don't. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's very, very expensive. And the lessons are way too expensive for where we're at that stage. Yeah.
Shall we go to 2015 to 2017?
Yeah.
Co-founder and managing director of 99 Investments. You say you were bruised there.
Yeah.
What was 99 Investments all about? B2B solutions for retailers in Namibia, am I right?
Yeah.
Like ShopRite, Woolworths, and Food Lovers. Just unpack that for us to understand exactly what you're doing.
Awesome. So in essence, 99 Investments was we're providing the backbone for retailers in the trolley space only, right?
Trolleys,
literally
pushing
shopping
stuff,
trolleys,
yeah?
right? It's not a product that many people tend to think of. It's just a tool, right? However, in economies like such as Zim, right, where shoppers are very, I wouldn't say they're price sensitive, right? There's a minuscule difference between what Pick n Pay and what Spar are offering in terms of price, right? So it's the little things that will push Trevor away if he goes into Pick n Pay. He gets into Pick n Pay, picks up a trolley and says, hey, but this way is clean this way. Nope, let me go next door. The trolley is a bit more manageable, right? That's the first part. Secondly, the retailers were seeing a large loss in the trolleys. So there's a large culture in Namibia where people take trolleys and then cut them up to, is it braai or roast meat on and then sell, right?
Wow.
Literally. So you'd find that vagrants would take the trolley, you know, because Trevor has done his shopping. He leaves it in the parking lot. He's moved on with his life, right?
Wow.
But no one is taking it back. And therefore a vagrant picks it up, cuts it up and now starts selling, right? But what you don't know is that I think by the time I left in 2018, a 40-liter trolley, right, at the point, I think retail for about 2,000 Namibian dollars, which is 2,000 rands, right? Now imagine if you've lost about a fleet of 200, how much is that? And they were losing them per quarter. Wow. That is a large capital expenditure that they couldn't afford to lose. So our solution was literally, we started off with just putting in trolley carts, right? So we just be like, we'd follow you, Trevor, right? And then go get the trolley and put it back, right? Then we now added trolley locks, which I think is quite popular in the UK and other European markets, to say that I'm going to force you to put your 1 rand or your 5 rand to get the trolley out. And then if you want to get your coin back, right, you need to push back the trolley. That kind of, adjusted the behavior. Now the third section was now actually servicing the trolley. So, welding the handlebars, changing the tires, literally, to make sure that they're able to retain the clientele that comes in so that they don't leave. So we're able now to reduce the turnover of the trolleys of having to purchase them. So that was the essence of it. We'd grown quite large, as you rightly pointed out, that we had all of the Woolies in Namibia, all of the Pick n Pays in the Spar. Yeah.
8 million equity you managed to raise.
Yeah. This is in rands, guys.
The rands, okay. 53 employees, that's what you had at some point?
Yeah.
But you say it humbled you.
It was, so the 8 million that we got it from a private equity fund, which for startups is not exactly smart, right? So what our situation was, the situation that oddly enough I found myself in again was we needed credit. We're still dealing with retailers who our payment timelines were two different things, right? You're getting paid 30 to 60 days afterwards. And as you rightly pointed out, that we have a large staff complement, which was, I think, about 95% were literally just trolley guards, right? Wow. And we also needed to purchase, the handlebars, the tires, to make sure that we're able to keep maintaining. So we're fronting up those costs, but the payment timelines were not enough. As I was saying that, calling up friends to say, please borrow me this money, was to make sure that we had to keep going. So we'd gone to banks, you get a little line of credit, but as you can imagine, there's a cap, right? Where they're like, maybe your turnaround time will only maybe front you maybe 50,000
If you
rands.
were to redo this business, what would you do? What would you change?
I would start manufacturing.
So
that was our goal for the equity, right? So I think the 3 million was ops, right? The other 5 million was for us to build a factory. So I saw that literally China and South Africa had a monopoly in Africa and mainly SADC. So I was like, let me just break this monopoly. Instead of just
You're
maintaining...
a dreamer, girl.
Yes! I'm ambitious. I will say this. I'm a bit delusional, but ambitious. So my plan was, instead of now just maintaining them, why don't I import them and maintain the whole value chain? Let me give, the guys from SA run for their money. But unfortunately, as say PE fund, right, we sold the shareholding, about 49%, because we badly needed money. But as you can imagine, talking to any financial analyst, selling 49% of your business is not wise. You don't own that business anymore, especially when you've got a co-founder, right? So we ended up breaking up because of disagreements about the direction of the business. And we parted ways.
So did the business survive when you parted ways? It didn't survive because it was a brainchild.
It did not survive. Yes, every time I got to Namibia, my mom is still there. You get into the shops, and where it used to be a sea of green, there's no one there, and you're like, what was the lot for, right? There's nothing here. So that was a terrible experience for me, because I think I took about a year off before I came to Zim. I traveled, went to Zambia, went to other places just to get over it, because my sense of identity was so tied in to the business, right? I was the MD, we've gotten this, but when that's gone, who are you? As I've said, right? To say that.
That's a very important
Literally,
point there.
yeah.
I'll stop you there, and when we come back, when the business collapses and it's been part of your identity, who are you?
Yep.
At home, don't go away. Join us on the other side for this interesting conversation.
My contract closure paper still had tears. I was sitting in the boardroom. Like, I don't remember crying, but there were tears.
Welcome back to our conversation with Gul Ciso, the co-founder and CEO at Thumeza Fintech. Gugu, before we go to the identities story that we are beginning to talk about,
Sure.
Where were you born?
I was born in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. The hospital called Bilo.
Bilo. That's where I was born.
Thank you from Bulawayo, Matebele. At some point, you've crossed paths with Bilo.
You're right. So
Yeah.
you're born in Bilo.
Yeah.
And which schools did you go to?
So I've had an eclectic education, right? So from grade 1 up until grade 6, I was in Bulawayo. I think I went to Fairview, right? And then my mom and my stepdad at the time migrated to Namibia. This was purely due to economic reasons. I think most of us have had family that have left. So we moved to Namibia. I went to a tiny town called Swakopmund, a resort town in Namibia. So I was at the local local primary, and then high school there up until grade 8. And then they moved me to Windhoek, capital city, to St. George's. So I finished the rest of my secondary there. And then I went to the University of Namibia, pursued a BBA, which is, I think I was saying, which is the degree that you do when you're not quite sure what you want to do, but you're like, this might be useful later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it been useful?
It has, oddly enough. Like, I remember like in first year, our principles of management lecturer, this is the only thing that I remember. He was like, the only thing that you guys need to do is make sure that you employ the clever economics and accounting people to do your job. Literally. That's literally it. And I've kept that to mind. And the other classes just were enough for me to ask questions to say, I don't quite understand this, articulate this for me. So I think it was a great foundational degree to pursue.
You've had interesting seasons in your life.
Yeah.
Part of the fifth class of the Google Startup Initiative Accelerator Program, 2018 Tony Elumelu Foundation, and you're also a Mandela Washington Fellow. What's the significance of those aspects of your life, that aspect of your life?
Networks. I was literally just pursuing networks up very, very...
Has it paid out?
It has. It has. I think the one that has been particularly useful for me is Yali, as well as the Google for Startups. Google for Startups was very useful when we were pursuing our regional growth, right? So you quickly realize that you don't have a lot of answers to questions such as, who's the best lawyer in Kenya?
Yeah.
Right? And when we are a foreigner, so you need to make sure that whoever you're getting recommended is someone that you can trust, right? Or realistically, what's the culture in Kenya? Can I trust the people there? Can I get my money back? Am I able to actually operate as a foreigner? What should I expect, right? And these are conversations that you can have with fellow founders, right? That can be honest with you to say that these are the people that you should avoid. These are the opportunities that I see in your field, right? For Yali, for me, it's networks as well. Like it's a great network all across Africa. So you're able to also have really, really great conversations about people in your field that are in other countries that can really help you articulate exactly what you're trying to do.
So the identity issue, your business in Namibia collapses and you ask yourself the question that you asked yourself.
Yeah.
I used to identify myself with this business. It's no longer there, and who am I? How did you answer that question?
I couldn't. I couldn't for a whole year. I couldn't. I remember that my contract closure paper still had tears. I was sitting in the boardroom. Like, I don't remember crying, but there were tears. Because I didn't even fight. because usually right now with the person that I am, I'm quite militant. I'm like, we'll see each other in court. But then it was such a shock to say that I literally just came from, this town, from fixing an issue that just came up to beg, this retailer not to let us go. And you guys are letting me go because we're not agreeing on this matter. How, right? So I literally took the year to just try and figure out myself, to say, who am I? Asking myself those hard questions once again, to say, should I go back to formal employment? But I think the twist to coming back to them, being in a completely new environment, right? I hadn't grown up here per se, so I didn't have the networks, right? Here people are saying, I went to uni with this person, I went to high school with this person. The networks are quite tight. I didn't have that. So I literally had to build it up from scratch and re-identify myself to say that I'm not just a CEO, I'm not just a person, I'm a person that will pursue an opportunity and try my best to make sure that I push it through. So I still don't think I've articulated that fully as much as I've saying that, I'm an opportunist, but I think that's something that's also still evolving. I'm pretty sure that may change as well.
Do you still carry the trauma around?
Yes.
Unpack that for us.
Yes. So
I can see it on your face as you're talking.
Man, it was bad, guys. It was bad. So just to put this into context, I was 24?
Yeah.
I was 24. The management team, I was the only woman. I was the only black person. I was the only person under the age of 30. So, there's naivety that we go through in business, right? And oddly enough, I tell myself that if I had not gone through that experience there, I would not be the Gugu who's here now, right? I went to therapy. I know that, African culture is not quite so hot on therapy.
I'm big on therapy.
It's a great thing.
I'm big on therapy.
Great.
All of us need therapy.
Literally.
Yes,
literally,
all of us need therapy.
Literally.
And I'm saying this, I think, for the third time.
Literally.
The Africans out there, the blacks out there, all of them, all of us, we need to do. There's nothing wrong with doing therapy.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like, that has been the...
So you did therapy?
I went to therapy.
Yeah.
That helped unpack some of the trauma that I'd been carrying and why my identity was so festooned, right into the startup. Because straight from uni, right, I literally went from a student, but I'd been working at GBL, from a student to this thing that was now my baby. I wasn't doing anything else. So I didn't know who I was, right? And there was some other trauma with other situations that I'd all put into this bundle. Things just kind of exploded. So that year really was quite tough. I won't lie, where I truly didn't know what I was. But you've
now learned the lesson of not identifying yourself with the business.
Literally. And not putting your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Do not put your eggs in one basket. Always make sure that you've got an exit strategy in your head. Begin with the
wisdom
end in
right
mind.
there.
Yeah.
That's word
Begin
right
with
there.
the end in mind. People say, no, that's a loser mentality. Why are you giving up? But it's pragmatic. What happens if crap hits the fan? What's my plan? Not having a plan, I think, is the worst thing you can do as a business person. And I wouldn't give you money because I'm like, okay, Google, if things hit the fan, and you're like, I don't know, I'm like, can you get my money back, right? I'd rather deal with someone who says, this is the plan, or this is plan A to plan Z. If that feels high, we had a plan, it worked.
So what's the next big thing for Google? The dreamer.
Growth. So growth, as I was saying, that this is Thumeza 2.0. We just need to get a bit more capital infusion. Grow. My plan is within the next 5 years to disperse 100 million USD. I know I can do them. The industry is large, as I was saying, about 280 billion in Africa alone. In South Africa, it's about 440 billion. So there's a lot of room for me to grow, right? And that's adding on other, value-added services. And then from there on, I would really love to start a VC fund for marginalized startups, just being able to put in that first check to say that this is crazy, but let me give you 20K and let's see what happens. And investing with empathy. I don't want to now start looking over your shoulder to say, but did you talk to Trevor? No. Use your business, right? Run it. I'm here for mentorship, but run it, right? So I would really want to do that. I see that being my next step.
Wow.
Afterwards, yeah.
You were at the Ideas Festival in Nyanga,
yes.
2023.
Great enjoyed
and
it.
you went viral with your comments on the Zimbabwean ecosystem, which I think at the Ideas Festival we concluded doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So shall we watch briefly what you said, and I want to see whether you still believe in that.
someone starts, they see a young person. I'm not even going to talk about sex or gender. A young person. Oh, is this your father's company?
Oh, dear.
Why would you think it's my father's company? Why are you expecting to talk to someone older before you even try to hear me out, right? 1. 2, as Victor pointed out, this whole thing of, but you guys don't have money, man. I could do this myself. Next thing you know, two months down the line, we've seen the exact same product internally. 2 months later, they've tried to do a launch, but it's dead in the water. Why would I ever go back and try and create a relationship with that entity again? And then people say that, oh, but you startups, you don't exist, you don't come and talk to us. Why would I want to talk to you? There's no value addition that you're offering. You're actually making my life harder. The only thing that we're now seeing is, rather, let me create value and sell to you. Then at least I know I've got money in my pocket, right? Then you're going to say, Gugu doesn't want to add value to the market. Yeah, she's taking away jobs to SA. But what value are you giving me in return? Look at the SA ecosystem. Imperial Logistics, I'm a logistics person, is literally buying up all the startups in the logistics sector, and they've got power. Who's doing that in Zim? Who?
Wow.
No one, right?
So do you still identify with those passionate views of yours about the way corporates treat startups?
Yeah.
The way you are viewed as a woman? Is it your father's business or your husband's business? Do you still stand by those views?
I do, and I think it's going to get worse with the contraction that's happening globally within the economies. People are hunkering down, right? It's just to make sure that they survive the season. So I think openness to dealing with external entities is not exactly something that's going to be, prevalent. I have, however, also come to understand, as someone who is, I wouldn't say grown considerably, but you start looking at certain factors to say that by aligning myself with this particular entity, is it best for me or can I do it myself? It's not right, and I wish that the environment was a bit more lenient, but looking at the fact of how small we are, I think it's a bit more exclusionary than it is going to be inclusionary for the next couple of years, if not decades.
I like your idea about venture capital fund, because that's what we lack in this space. Operators that understand that startups need patient capital and they need to be resourced that way, and you need to fund them on the basis of their projects, on the basis of their vision, and
as well as them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there wouldn't be a Silicon Valley if it wasn't the existence of venture capital funds that look at who you are and what you're presenting, and I'm going to bankroll that because of who you are and the ideas that you have.
Definitely. There aren't many of us, to be honest, in Africa that have money that are our color and have our experiences, right? So, people complain, we told the money that's coming to the continent is from outside. But to be honest, who would you rather give money to? Someone that you relate to, right? Because I'm like, even if I may not understand what you're selling me, Trevor, but I believe in you, right? We have similar experiences. We need more people that have similar experiences to us, right? I'd be willing to invest in a Ryan, in a Noma, because I'm like, I understand your background, understand that you push through regardless if the business fails. You make a plan and pivot, right? I believe in you. But how many people are there out there with money that are willing to, step outside their comfort zone and say that I believe in this person, we have similar backgrounds, right? So which is why, my dream is to exit, right? And have more people that exit and put money back into the ecosystem.
I love that. But I also love books.
Yes.
And I'm not going to let you go before I ask you to share 3 books that you've read with the people that have been listening to you right now. What books do you want to share?
So the first one is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Literally, I think that's the startup founder's Bible, right? It's I remember reading that, I was a bit lost. I was second guessing myself, right? We were like, we're growing, but then I'm like, I don't think this is the right step. We're facing some issues, but everyone else is growing, so we should be. So he's got this thing where he says that you need to be audacious enough to dream, to create something from literally nothing to something, right? Because usually we speak in terms of I'm at point 0 to number 1 from number 1 to number 2, but what happened to zero? There was nothing there, right? So someone has to be audacious enough to create something from literally nothing. And I also quite resonate with these perspectives on monopolies, on literally owning the value chain, right? I know it's not popular.
I don't, but...
Down with capitalism. But realistically, if you can, take advantage of that value chain and then bring on other people afterwards, right? It is the spirit of
I
capitalism.
like his ideas on education.
Yeah.
That, like our education is so focused on the academic.
Literally.
Rather than giving people skills. So I like that. It's a book I love and I recommend to a lot of people.
Do it, yes.
Your second book?
The second one, a bit controversial, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-U-C-K by Mark Manson.
Yeah.
That book, I love it because it's pragmatic. It teaches you how to be pragmatic, to pick one thing that you care about. I think in today's world, we cared way too much about way too many things. So you tend to get pulled in a lot of different directions, right? You're not quite sure what you stand for because you're trying to stand for everything, right?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't please everybody.
You can't, Trevor. You can't.
Stand for something.
One thing, even
Fight
if it's
for
not
it.
popular.
Yeah.
You get it, right? Even if it's not popular, stand for it and be pragmatic about it. Be pragmatic about yourself to say that this is the only thing I can offer right now,
Know
but I'll
yourself,
pursue it.
Gugu. Know yourself. Yeah. The third book?
Third and last one, nonfiction, the Lord of the Ring trilogies by J.R.R. Tolkien. Love it. Read it when I was in grade 6 for the first time. First time I was immersed in a world like that. But it told me the possibilities of dreaming big and being able to create a world by dreaming big. So I say that's my main takeaway from that book. It's just dream big. You can do it.
Fantastic. I love what you do. I love people that do what you do, which is create products, build companies, fail, stand up again, and keep going. So we wish you all the best. Like I said, I get the sense that you're just taking off, that the past 10 years have just given you the skills, the foundation to build upon, give you the runway to take off, and that... You said 5 years, 100 million, you said, eh? 5 years,
100 million, yes. That is the goal.
So we're going to be watching The Space Girl, but we wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it.
Allow me to turn over to our viewers who are all over the world to say thank you for watching us. Remember, we are a weekly show. We are out on Mondays on YouTube, 7 a.m. Central African time. And to ensure that you don't miss out on any of these quality conversations, such as one I've had with Gugu, I invite you to subscribe, to like, and to share. When you subscribe, you'll get a notification every time we have a new show. We've gone a step further, by the way, and created a platform where all our conversations sit, including our podcast. So go there and binge and watch and listen as you're washing plates, as you are cleaning your car. Until next time, cheers to you all.